Hello everyone and welcome to another review with me on Berets, and today we're going to be talking about Faisalith, an ice-based unit, which is why I have a nice warm blanket on, and totally not because it is actually cold outside and I am cold too. Sure, why not? Anyway, so let's talk about Faisalith. Faisalith was a unit that when she was first announced at FanFest on the JP side, took a look at her and I said, meh. Honestly, Faisalith has never been a unit in the story that has particularly interested me. Design-wise, yeah, she's got a Moogle in her sprite, but I'm not so easy to impress. Regardless, I just didn't like her that much. I didn't really care much for her involvement in the story. I guess I cut that animation off. We should show that animation. See, the Moogle can carry a gun. That's how she's a dual wielder. Anyway. But yeah, she's just not one of my more favorite designed characters. And when I saw her banner, I instantly became more interested, especially when I saw her kit, since on the JP side, for any of you global people who are wondering, there are a current couple of very powerful finishers that are actually worth putting in your party. One of them is called Regina, a very powerful female robot character who has just a massive amount of damage potential, which is, needless to say, very, very important for finishing off some trials. A lot of trials on the JP side right now are just dangerous to let go for too long. And that is why you essentially just need some kind of a chain finisher. The other one would be CG Sid, and I've talked about him a lot in the past, so go check out those videos if you really want. But Faisalith looked to be the next in the line of potentially amazing chain finishers, and more interesting still because she is part of the true dual-wield wave that is currently gripping the JP side as much as the cold wave in some parts of the world. But yes, also we gotta just take a look at her victory animation. Yeah, that's one of the best victory animations in the game. That Moogle is dead and gone. It should be noted that she has 100 Moogles at home, and she just brings out a new one every time, you know, one gets chucked. Shame that. Anyway, let's talk about her kit. Now, her kit is, some people would say, is not exactly the most interesting. And some people would say that her TMR is not the most interesting. So let's talk about the TMR. 50% attack when equipped with a gun, 25% from equipping when dual wielding. So basically 25% through dual wield, 50% attack. 75% stats is pretty good just in general. It means you don't need to use Barts or potentially lightnings or TMR. You could potentially use this on a gun user and get a fair amount, especially if the user has just a lot of passives in their kit, meaning that they can hit the cap pretty easy. You could just focus on having better accessories, but not necessarily the best thing in the world. Now, Super Trust Mastery, I think this is actually just another one that is really, really good. It's basically Lightning Sword, but a gun. 174 attack, and 50% true dual wield from equipping it. There's nothing to dislike about this. Yeah, you may say it doesn't have an element, but non-fixed elemental weapons are just starting to become really valuable on the JP side, so yeah, this seems fine. Now, Limit Burst is just a massive chaining ability that really, again, as with most Limit Burst, only chain with itself. 7-star maxed out AoE 43 hit, 345% physical attack, single target, 1 hit, 790% to finish it off, ignoring 50% defense, and gives modifiers to some of her other abilities for 4 turns. Only 27 Limit Burst crystals, very, very cheap Limit Burst to use. Now, getting into her kit is, well, it is very interesting to say the least, and it is also far more convoluted and far more frustrating than I think it needs to be. My initial review and thoughts about Fi here was that, or Faye, or whatever you want to call her, was that she looked really, really cool. But a couple of things have stood out to me. First of all, her equipment. The fact is, in her kit, she only has dual wield, and it is only for guns. Not that her selection would have saved her that much, but it is a bad selection on top of just having a really, 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 really bad dual wield. Do you equip another dual wield to make up for this? I don't think so, but it just sucks. Especially because there is some good projectiles and daggers out there. This just limits her kit, and finding the equipment means that you either need to beat the Iceberg Kai trial, not necessarily the easiest trial to beat, or get Prompto Super TMR. Again, not necessarily the easiest thing to do. So equipment, or just get her Super TMR, but some combination out of two of those three. Either way, it just doesn't feel that good, and equipment selection has kept me from getting a particularly high attack build on her. As you can see, currently I already have her pretty much maxed out for attack, and 2,132 just feels really weak in general, but there you go. Now, looking at her kit, a lot of her abilities work to increase a whole bunch of her other abilities. So it's kind of in the trend of Axstar. Use one ability, powers up another ability, working towards one big cataclysmic turn. Premium Faisalith Bullet is one of her bigger attacks, a 8-hit chaining ability that has a pretty high modifier, but also ignores 50% defense, which is probably the biggest part of it. Her cooldowns are also essential for her rotation. Type Speed gives a 200% attack boost for 11 turns, and a self plus 100% damage modifier on anti-ice or destructive bomber, as well as premium Faisalith bullets for 11 turns on a 10-turn cooldown. And this is the thing. Her cooldowns are so long that it puts her into a basically an 11-turn pattern, and that is considerably slower than what feels like Regina can do. Regina, for one thing, I think is way better, mainly because she has a shorter cycle. She has less equipment needs, and her equipment needs, there are, you know, at least a couple of good big guns out there that you can give to her. So yeah, I'm kind of more partial to Regina after looking at this, but her other cooldown ability, which is on a 10-turn cooldown, available turn 1, Self 999 MP recovery, enables access to a quadcasting ability for 1 turn. Now, if you use this ability, it does change some of her other abilities, so she can basically get into a very, very powerful 1 turn, 2 turns. And this is where I give credit to someone on Discord, Aiko, as well as a couple of the other guys, or gals, not going to assume anything. But I want to give a thanks to them out on Discord who came up and basically calculated out this. My initial testing of Phi proved that you really need to kind of follow. She needs a specific pattern to be absolutely amazing. And that 11-turn pattern we will talk about in a sec. But yeah, she has lots of passive in her kit for equipping guns, some MP recovery. She has the chaining ability up, she has modifiers naturally, but really her kit works to support the kit. So with that being said, let's show her off a little bit, and we're going to have to show her off 2 times, or possibly 3 depending. But the big thing is that in her kit, if you follow a specific pattern, you can actually get her to do a 66 times mod on one of her attacks. And so that's pretty damn powerful. So to start, we will open with her big buff ability. Now this big buff ability, Type Speed, is the 99 MP ability. So using this will essentially give her a much bigger attack because of the 200% attack, and this is where I wish I could say, hey, if I had the equipment, this would probably be going better. And we'll be using Fina as a chaining partner here just because, but not to really show off. But we got Fina here, why not? Now, after this, you go into her Imbue ability, which it also debuffs the ice element for 80%. Because Fina doesn't have a ice element weapon on her, we're not getting the ice element. That's totally fine. But Frozen Barrette is the one that we are looking for. It is 45 MP. And since we're already dual wielding, we don't have to worry about that. So let's just use Fina here to go to town. Get a nice little chain there, do some damage. Not exactly the most impressive, but it's fine. Now, next she will use her 120% Imperil ability, which should be... which one is it? There's a lot of abilities in this list. I had this one... there it is. Anti-Ice Armor Breaking Bullet. This is used and will give a 3-turn debuff for 120%. So we want to do that, and that is her 52. Nope, 56 MP ability. I remembered it was 50. I didn't remember. There it is. And again, we will just get Fina to provide support. So now we're getting a little bit more power here. Next up is the turn where we unlock her quad casting. And this is one of the things that I was kind of that is probably disappointing about in her kit, because she can't really take advantage of her quad casting for more than a single turn. And that is probably the part that I think feels the worst about her. Alright, so let's unlock quad casting. We'll use Fina here to basically just rebuff her spirit, and everybody else will just take a turn off. What a lovely, nice thing. But something to note here is that Fina now has the ice, no, wait. Okay. So we're going to do... Now, her quad casting only has 4, basically, moves that she can use. The mods don't stack from double casting the same ability twice, and this was one of the things that I was pretty disappointed about. There is not to say that certain things don't. To train a lot, the 34 MP ability, because we used hunting the following turn, or the previous turn I should say, it gives her a 250% attack boost for 1 turn, as well as a 1000% modifier for her for one of her abilities. Her 42 MP gives a 70% debuff defensively to the enemy for a single turn. Also gives a 1000 modifier to the same ability that we were talking about before. And then our last two, one of them is a very powerful attack, her F-type Strongest Ice Bullet, and then followed by her other one, which is another one that adds a modifier to her attack, and also gives the ice element to an ally for a single turn. And then we cap it off. Here's where we will need Fina to do her thing. And now here comes her big attack. Now after this, it should be noted that you start going into basically rotating through her kit by using some of her other abilities, and then you eventually reset. So 151 million doesn't feel that great, I have to say. Probably would be better if I just had more attack, as well as if I had stuck Diablos on her, then we could have taken advantage of some extra human killers. But let's go test it out, and because one of the problems that I have with this is that she doesn't seem to have that good of a rotation, since you cannot do it. And please, Alum, oh sweet Jesus, Alum, Gummy, whoever, please, 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 can we please get some kind of infinite turn training dummy? I cannot begin to explain how nice that would be. We have to look for a very specific unit, which was in here before, but seems to be gone now. This should do. It's not ideal per se, but should be fine. If not, this will basically just wrap it up, and I will talk about the actual turns, because it's kind of hard to find a good tank as a friend unit. More than anything, this just potentially allows us to do a full 11-turn setup. We are going to basically just set ourselves up to be survivable. And just for, you know, safety. So now we have Fi, she's been boosted, and we will get into, hopefully, a fairly decent setup here. This boss, by the way, I should mention, be careful not to get, you know, destroyed by the fact that he has a lot of MP drain, a lot of elemental attacks. Good to see that my girl, or Warrior of Light, Lena, is doing a good job here. Alright, so next we go into her Frozen Barrette, which is her 845. We'll use Fina here to chain. Got some damage in. With our defenses up, we can just safely, you know, have a bit of coffee, relax a little bit. Maybe I shouldn't have chained. Maybe we should just be trying to play the long game. I don't know. Either way, we should have this boss, you know, pretty well covered for now. Just watch that MP drain go. Oh, he's not using the MP drain very much this time. Oh, that's nice. Got some extra MP back. That's pretty nice. Alright, so now that we've gone through that, next up we will use her 120 Imperil, which is her 56 MP, yes. It's hard to keep track of all of this. And we'll just unlock. Alright, so here we go. And yes, I chose the ice caves for this song because why not? Right, we'll just throw... we'll just do stuff that's not overly important. Orin's fine, we still have the debuffs on the enemy, so shouldn't be that scary. There's the insta-death move, which won't affect us because I protected against it this time. Oh, we got a holy counter off. Alright, so now we get to just take a turn, unlock quad casting. We will be not using Fina for anything. I think it's just a little too, well, maybe we should debuff the enemy just a bit. Just a bit, just in case he tries to do anything. And you get to see CG Charlotte's just a bit, or CG Saber, depending on if you're a Fate Grand fan. Insta-death move. Insta-death move, insta-death move. He really likes his insta-death. But yeah, in terms of... I still think that... there goes the MP. I still think that I like Faye considerably better, or Regina, I should say, considerably better than Faye is. Faye, whatever. I haven't really decided what I want to call her yet. But the reason is her quadcasting is much more locked down than I originally thought it was going to be, which is rather disappointing. I was really hoping that it would be just a generally much stronger ability, so let's just see what it can do on its own. Again, it just doesn't feel quite so strong as some of the other chain finishers that are out there. And yes, technically we are not chaining into it, but I also kind of want to show some of the other abilities that come later in our kit. So next up, let's just make sure that we get into re-protecting the party from anything and everything that can happen. And Fina, just keep looking pretty, girl. Fiery Tornado. 1, 2, 3. And now he starts punching us. Stop draining MP. He has none left. For next turn, we're just going to get some MP regeneration going. And sorry, this is a little bit of an extended one. Now we can actually get into her turn 6. Now, turn 6... Swear to God, phone, if you don't unlock, you actually use a different ability than what she has been using up to this point. And that is her ultimate 7-star ability, the last one that she unlocks at level 110. And this is her 8-hit chaining ability, which still has, you know, some extra on it, and it ignores defense. So let's just go right in and show how, well, do we want to chain? I guess it is a chaining ability. Let's see what we can do. And so a fair bit more damage. In general, I mean, 5 feels okay. With a solid ice chaining partner, like with someone who has consistently the ice element, it might even be worthy of saying that you could use her in her 11 chain combo. After this, you go back, after using that ability on turn 6, you go into her Imbue, 80% Imperil, then her Imperil again, her Limit Burst at that point, and then 2 more turns of using the ability that we just used. But her highest 2 turns in terms of modifiers are at turn 5 and turn 6, unless there has been a better route that has come out for her. In general, I would say that Fi is, you know, pretty powerful. There's no doubt about that. But equipment really is the thing that holds her back and will hold her back for a lot of people. Finding 2 really high static guns is just not super easy to do, and therefore kind of leaves her kit in a little bit of a no man's land. It's potentially easier to just gear Regina. Regina has a shorter span and essentially functionally works the same except for one key difference. Regina just has a shorter cycle, which I think is kind of better. Not to mention that her kit almost feels just more naturally, how do I say this? Just more naturally better suited to be cyclical, as well as do a lot of damage and just finish out the fight. Fi, however, is a powerful chainer and an ice element chainer, so if you can match her to another AT chainer, because that's, I think, where most of her chaining is, I don't know. there is some good stuff in there. I just don't think she is as good as I initially thought, and equipment is probably the thing that will hold her back. Anyway, that's all for this one. Hope you are doing well. If you do pull her and you are using her and you have found a better one, please let me know, because I really would like to find a better way to make this unit work into the future. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. See you next time.